Now, Ms. Alexander, item 6 on my agenda is the reclass of Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk of Superior Court requested by Clerk Forte, who is here, from a pay grade 18A to a pay grade 18H, as in horse.
Welcome, Madam Clerk.
Hi.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. As you may recall, January 22nd, Angelica Alexander, the Finance Director, came before you on the Clerk's Office behalf, Superior and State Court Clerk's Office behalf, requesting a classification for a new employee at a pay grade salary G18I at $51,647.60. And that was passed by a majority vote. Since that time, I have hired the Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk position 0404, as was previously presented to Council on January 22nd. And the individual was previously a Senior Deputy Municipal Court Clerk. And so, unbeknownst to me, when I looked at new employee, I thought that would mean someone new to the office of Superior Court Clerk. However, there is an ordinance that I've been informed of, 16B-3-2, that is an interdepartmental transfer promotion under which this particular employee would fall under. So because they're not, I guess, for lack of a better term, off the street, they are transferring from another department, a different ordinance applied, and therefore the previous request was not applicable. So since that time, I've gone in and have made a new ordinance amending the previous one so that this new new to the office, but transfer from a different department, can come in as Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk. Now, this particular employee has been with the city about maybe 6 or 7 years, and this employee is very familiar with the inner workings of the city government, the programs and whatnot, so I felt that she would be a tremendous asset to the office. She was hired, she's under a different pay scale because of her years with the city government. And so I tried to get as close to the previous requested amount as I possibly could without going over. So if you have looked at, I don't know if you have the amendment before you or not, but my request is that this employee, Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk, be brought in as a G18 Step H, and that amount would be $51,140.02. So it will be to her detriment as far as the salary. It will be less, but again, in order to get this passed and get as close to, I didn't want to go over, so this was as close as I could get to the previous requested amount. So I'm hoping that Council will be gracious enough to pass this request as I present it to you.
And just right to now. Add to that, the clerk stayed within budget. This is all a part of her trying to get her office set up as a newly elected official, and it just exceeds the authority of the city manager to accomplish administratively. So it is required that she appear before council.
Do we need a motion?
We would need a motion.
The first reading, we'll be back to vote on in 2 weeks.
Sorry. Thank you.
But I just wanted everybody to hear that. Appreciate Clerk Forte being here today.
No motion.
It is the first reading, that's right. Councilor Davis?
You know, I'm listening, but I would like, in respect to all the other departments and what we've done in the past, I'd like the city manager or human resources to comment on the request. I'd like to get a different perspective on it.
Well, Mr. Mayor and to Councilor Davis, basically we're following the city ordinance related to promotions. In our government, if a person is promoted from one pay grade to another, they will go from, let's say in this case, I don't know if the person is a 12 or 14, but would go from a 14 to an 18, and the max the city manager would be authorized to allow for that department or elected official would be an 18C. And so any employee in the government follows that same ordinance. When you're promoted from one pay grade to another, you're allowed to go to that next pay grade, and if there are some extenuating circumstances with your experience and background, they could make a request to the city manager to go to a C. In this case, the clerk of Superior Court promoted this person from one department to another. They'll go to the 18, and she is requesting that that person go out to an H. As the mayor has said, that's beyond the C level authorized by the city manager, and that's why she's here today.
And I guess the hire has already taken place. Is that what I heard?
Yes, the hire has already taken place.
Okay.
And this particular employee was a G18A in the previous department where she worked. So this went from a G18A, now I'm requesting that it go to an H.
And so in accordance with our ordinance, in that case, it would be a lateral transfer. And so that person would have come from an 18A in one department to an 18A in the new department, and so it would be a lateral move. Well, and so I didn't think it was an 18, but
okay, well,
the HR director said it was a 14, which is, I thought it was a 12 or a 14, so it is a promotion, and it would be what I explained initially.
What's the position of the Human Resource Director and your position on this matter?
Well, I have no issue with what the request. I mean, she's an elected official. I would just ask and say to you that you need to be prepared to do the same for any other employee, any other department head who comes forward with a similar request. We want to be consistent, and we want to give the same courtesy and respect to every other department head.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at. So what I'm hearing you say, we've changed the ordinance, we're changing it.
Well, you're not changing the ordinance.
We're opening the door across the board, or is this just?
It's an amendment, so I just want you to know to the previous ordinance.
Well, we're not changing the ordinance. You're allowing something that is different from what the promotional policy says it will be.
Have we done that before?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's budget neutral.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the two significant pieces that make it unique, just from my point of view, one, it's an elected official in launching their office, trying to get their people to help run it. They're answerable to the citizens. And the other is that it was within budget. It's budget neutral. I think for somebody else to be able to accomplish both of those and come and apply, and there will be others that ask, they'll cite this, but I think those are the differentiating factors.
And Mr. Mayor, you're right. I support, the department head knows best. This elected official knows best. I just want a level playing field. I want all to have the same opportunity as they come before you. If it's budget neutral, that they would be given the same opportunity.
Good. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you for answering my questions.
Councilor Crabb?
I like the idea that we give note to people within the organization and allow them to, go into different departments and be promoted and build, go up the ladder. I like that there's that catch where it has to come before council. We can't just, let them go crazy with their increase in pay and all that kind of stuff. But I like this idea where she's able to go into a new department, more responsibilities, moving up the ladder, as you could say, and then when we get into these sticky situations where it might, the salary may be going out of whack a little bit, then we can address it individually. I like how this is working out.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Councilor Huff.
In total agreement with Councilwoman Crabb. My concern, I've asked before, I'm still trying to get an understanding on why, when we post a position, that someone can come from the outside and get paid more than someone that's been with us on the inside when they have a lateral transfer. So if she hired someone that was from another company, another government that came in from out of town, they would be able to take what was posted for the position.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to get understanding why is it something we can do moving forward where our employees can be rewarded for being here and working and applying for the same position and competing with people from the outside?
And Councilor Huff, you raised an excellent question, a lot of question marks go behind that. I mean, it boils down to we fall short. The Columbus Consolidated Government falls short when it comes to paying our employees. We are not competitive with not even Phoenix City, Russell County, the school district, or any of them. And so what we do, we follow the ordinance in promoting people, and most department heads are not going to come and stand before you and ask that you allow a person to go out to an H step. They are just going to stay within the lines. They're going to color outside the lines. If the city manager, because that person gets promoted and they're an extraordinary employee, you've limited the city manager to a C. But yet when they go out and recruit for that same position, take budget analysts for an example. Our budget analysts leave finance and they go to Fort Benning, the school district, Harris County, anywhere else as a budget analyst, and they make more money. So when we try and recruit a budget analyst, we lose out because, our departments are not willing to come and say, well, instead of letting them start at a 17C, they need a 17I. They just offer the 17C and the person walks away, and so when our people get promoted, the max they go to is a C, and an elected official or someone will come and say, I want to go to an H. It gets approved. So we're challenged internally. And it's simply, we don't need to get into it, but, we don't pay enough. We don't pay enough. Phoenix City department heads make more than our city department heads. And it goes all the way down the line. So we're challenged.
I get the fact that we're challenged. What my question is, if the position is posted at a certain amount already.
There's a range.
I'm saying if she puts it out there and says, okay, I'm looking for a chief deputy clerk and I can pay up to 50,
the range,
yeah, that range.
Mm-hmm.
The person coming in from the outside would have a better shot at the upper range.
Absolutely.
Yeah, than someone that's in our government.
And it's really...
If it was posted out, her range was up to, say, the H.
Yeah.
And the person was an A, like they're saying, it can only move to a C, which I think it seems like we're punishing the people within our government.
And we are, and here's the thing that department heads come to me with. I've got this person. I could hire them at a 17H, and they'll come, but all of my other people are at a 17A. I cannot bring them in making more than my other people in that same job class. And so they will just let that person walk because they're not going to pay them more than what their existing employees make. And what the existing employees make is not competitive with what others are paying that we're trying to recruit from the outside, so we lose out on good people for that reason. We have people, I got one employee says that I've been at A step and I've been here 15 years. And they've been at an A step and been here 15 years because we give a 0.5% pay and we move the whole scale. They still at an A step. We give another 0.5%, you move the whole scale, and they still at an A. They never get beyond an A step. So 15 years later, they're still at an A step. Then someone comes in and apply for a job and you got 10 of those positions and you can only get them at a C step. Well, they're not going to hire that person at department head because the other 10 people are all still at an A step. So we lose out on that person, and you end up settling for someone who will come in at an A step, just to let you know.
Okay.
That's what
So in this position, it puts this body in a good position when a department head or elected official steps up to let us know.
Well, that's why I made the point earlier that we just need a level playing field and we need to treat the others. But the challenge, the department head, just hear me, is not going to come and ask you for that if they've got 10 other people at an A step.
So let's just lock it down, and when the elected officials come, it puts us in a better position to hear their requests, get the information, process it, and approve as far as taking care of our people.
Well, and I think that elected official comes before you've got one specific position, so it's easier, and I'm sorry you had to be the straw that's
Oh, that's
turned
fine,
straight.
that's fine.
But it makes it easier for the elected official to do that because they're hiring one position. There are not
That's right,
four
Mayor.
other people at that same job that she has to go back and explain to them why she's pushing for a higher amount. You know, the bottom line is the people, and we've talked about this before, and it bears a longer conversation at a later date, but we've got to take care of the people that take care of the people. If that means reevaluating this, not just the services we provide, but how we provide those services, that has to be done.
And if I may interject, I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
But after the previous, when I was here on January 22nd, I made the offer to the employee based on what was passed. And so I'm trying to keep my word and trying to come as close, and I feel badly that it had to be reduced. But that's another reason to just, just as far as background information.
And I think that we'll probably hear a motion in a moment, but what this did was allow us to have a very brief initial discussion about what deserves a deeper dive. So let's try to get back for right now to the clerk's request. Do I hear a motion?
No,
It's in no motion.
we'll vote on it.
That's right, that's the second time I've done that.
Any other,
Y'all get me confused.
if there are no
All
other
right.
questions, we'll bring it back.
Okay. Can I ask for a motion then? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. we'll do it. All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, thank
And we
you.
still have Councilor, Mayor Pro Tem Pugh.
All this tells us is we need to do what we can in this upcoming budget, give our employees better pay. And I know we don't have a lot of money, but we need to take the money we have and put it on our employees. It's time.
Yes, ma'am, we hear you.
Loud and clear.
Councilor House?
Really, it's a fast question thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the Personnel Director, I believe. And to make sure I understand just where in this process. I understand, but you're right, we don't pay employees enough, and I'm not belaboring that point at all. But is it a true statement that if a person outside Columbus employees was hired, the Clerk of Superior Court could have offered them the higher pay scale without having to come to us, but since it was an internal employee, she had to? Is that a true statement or is that wrong? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Sure, Councilor House, let me explain. For this particular situation, the clerk had determined a particular salary that she believed would be appropriate, that she needed in order to hire someone for the Assistant Chief Deputy. That was the position itself is classed at a grade 18.
Okay. To
get the person at the requested salary, I believe was around $52,000.
Okay.
So that's what was presented to you. So when we learned, however, that the clerk wanted to promote someone from within, we had to use a different pay scale. We have two pay scales for the city. One pay scale is for those employees that are hired on or before June 30th of 2018.
Okay.
There's another pay scale for those folks that are hired on or after July 1, 2018. So to try to reconcile what the clerk is doing with the initial pay scale at 18H or I, that put the person at 52,000.
Well, let me interrupt you, Finance Director. I want to just get right to his question. Whether that person is coming from the outside or the inside, if it's beyond a C-step, they got to come before this.
That's what I wanted to know.
That's his question.
That's the question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
All right, we good? All right. All right. Everybody finished?
We'll bring that back for a vote in 2 weeks then. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, item 7, Mayor, is the amendment to section 4-32 of the Columbus Code to put in a minimum requirement that the Columbus Recreation Advisory Board meet bi-monthly. They can, of course, meet more than that, but this would just make the minimum bi-monthly. Any questions on that?
Don't see any.
Okay, we'll bring it back for a vote. And then the last ordinance we have is the first reading on the procurement ordinance amendment for Metra because of a federal transportation audit that occurred. These are some housekeeping measures that have to take place. Did you want to comment, Mr. City Manager? Or we?
It's a...
Okay.
No.
We'll bring that back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Then item 9, this is a resolution reappointing Michael Joyner as a recorder pro tem for an additional 4-year term. He'll, of course, be paid on a per session basis as needed. But it's ready for a vote.
Move approval.
Motion second to approve Mr. Joyner back to his position. Bruce, can you cue that up, or do we just? All right, all those in favor, please signify by voting appropriately.
Okay. Everybody got it?
Were there, I'm sorry, you rather, I should have asked for any discussion. Was there anything to the motion? Wait a minute, I can't get back there. Bruce, you're going to have to turn Councilor Davis's microphone on, please.
I'll defer to Councilor
All right, Councilor Garrett.
Garrett first.
I would ask that this be postponed until y'all have a chance to talk with Judge Joyner, because my understanding, I mean, from code enforcement, is that we are still not getting the enforcement we're seeking. The homes that have been reported, we've changed our ordinances to make them stricter, and there's still junk just accumulating throughout my district. Hoarders who have been in violation of the ordinance have been in violation for years. Some of them, it's been over a year now, and the ordinances just are not being enforced the way that we'd like to see them enforced. And I want to make sure that there's a clear understanding that we want our neighborhoods cleaned up. I don't want my constituents to continue facing this, and there should not be these repeated extensions, allowing people all these to just provide an excuse every time they say they're going to clean it up. And I know one of my constituents will be here today, and he's having the same issues with trash in multiple areas that he's reported, and just what's being done is not basically in conjunction with what we are doing to change these ordinances to make them stricter. So, I'd like a conversation to be had first, about what the expectations are before we vote on this.
Want to delay it for?
I would like it delayed.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, and I'm not sure how to work this since we started the vote publicly, Mr. City Attorney, but there is a motion, a second, to delay taking action on this particular recommendation for 2 weeks, 30 days?
I would comment quickly and say, don't take more than 2 weeks. That'd be my recommendation, because the term expires February 24th. if you want to have a discussion between now and then, fine, but you certainly need to take
That's
action.
fine with me.
Is that the motion?
Sure.
All right, the motion would be to withhold the vote on this particular recommendation of reappointment for 2 weeks.
And I know the committee was going to talk with them as well as you, so,
Yep.
I mean, I would just like it to be, crystal clear what the expectations are, and also, it's my understanding that we do not have the people clean up trash on the streets, that kind of thing. They're being ordered community service, and when we have people who are not clean up, we need to mandate they clean up by ordering community service.
Okay.
And the punishment, if they don't have the money to pay the fine, can be go out and do clean up other areas of the city as well, because we got folks who aren't paying their fines, and this, our ordinances just aren't being enforced strictly.
I think it's a great point. I think that there is it has kind of moved up in the list of prioritizations for I know, the administration and our staff to really affect some positive changes in some of these people that are habitually creating issues within the community with trash, with garbage, with hoarding, with all kinds of issues. So I think the request is appropriate. I know we've got 3 members on that committee that oversee the Recorder's Court. So if you would allow, I'm going to ask Councilor Thomas has a comment.
Well, I'm not,
Okay, I'm sorry, Councilor Thomas.
if I may, I did.
Sure,
I
go
was-
ahead.
Well, I wanted to do the parliamentary piece of this.
Thank you.
Since the motion passed and was queued up as passing, in order for us to delay it,
Need
we
a
have to
reconsideration.
reconsider. I voted on the prevailing side. I move that we reconsider the motion.
And I second it.
Thank you for keeping us parliamentary correct. So we've got a motion and second to reconsider the,
The motion to
Motion to
approve
approve.
this resolution.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Now-
Now we can do the motion and a second to delay for 2 weeks. All right, I've got a motion. A second?
Yes.
Motion second, all in favor of delay for 2 weeks, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I messed that one up.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilor Davis.
Yes, thank you. I deeply appreciate Councilor Garrett's comments. And to try to sum it up and not go into detail, I'm really concerned, and I've stated it to this body before, about the leniency in Recorder's Court. I don't know how to say it any nicer or straightforward, but the leniency is not just once, but over and over. And we are the recipients of the citizens' concern and begging for change. And we've had to make decisions here at this council table to address these very matters. And they need to be enforced. And people need to abide by the laws, the rules, and the regulations. They need to respect their neighbors and their community. So I am concerned about that. Our people, and I'll say a little bit further, our people, our employees work hard. They work hard. And you heard the city manager say earlier, we don't have a lot of staff in certain areas. We don't have a lot of people. But for them to go out over and over and over, it's almost like police officers. I'm concerned about that as well, where they'll wind up arresting somebody only to have to arrest that person 3 months later. I mean, that's got to stop. So our people can't keep doing this over the redundancy and all. We need to tighten up on things in those areas, and this body now is in control of Recorder's Court. And I think that message needs to be clear. So thank you, Councilor Garrett, for those comments.
Thank you, Councilor Davis. And I would suspect that it's clear now, and the follow-up conversations should be a little more pointed. So thank you. We'll take that forward.
Okay. Last item we have listed, Mayor, is a resolution requesting additional assistance from the local delegation to the General Assembly concerning the child residential treatment programs, personal care homes, and foster homes. This is consistent with what we've already asked the delegation to look at in these areas, just some additional points raised here.
There's a motion and a second to forward this to our legislative delegation. Any discussion? All in favor? You hit your buttons.
That passes.
Motion passes.
And then the last thing, Mayor, we would just need a short executive session on a personnel matter. That's all we have listed.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or issues for the Councilor Garrett?
Just to what one of my constituents will be talking about on public agenda, Mr. City Attorney. We've had an issue, I've discussed it with the mayor, where trash is being left, and because of our ordinances with code enforcement and the opportunity to come clean it out, it's just sitting in yards. In residential neighborhoods, when it's improperly bagged or somebody is going through it, I'd like us to take a look at whether or not, if it's close enough to the city right away, we can go ahead and get the claw truck out there, pick up the trash, because one of these is an absentee landlord. We haven't even been able to serve him with the letters to follow the process of law. And we can't let just a bunch of trash sit there. And the other issue is people are going through trash. It's not just that we've heard about inmates doing it, but it's not just inmates. It's also just people are looking through junk and they tear open the bags. Then our trash folks will not pick it up. And I know it's not just my district, but it's going to be addressed on the public agenda. I just want that to be on your radar, that if there's something we need to change with the ordinance to give us some more teeth, I'd like to do it.
All right. I think we've looked at that, and we do have enough control in the ordinance now. If it's a public health nuisance where rodents and other critters can habitate and spread disease, well, we can certainly get a citation even to the non-resident owner of record. And then if nothing happens, we can take action, clean it up, put a lien on the property. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with that.
I think the issue is, as far as the hazard, getting the citation to them, sometimes it takes some time, and we've let the hazard sit there. So if we need to do something to make it, where if we have a constituent calling, because I know I gave 3 addresses, one of them was cleaned up after my constituent went and personally bagged the trash that was not on his property, and the other 2, nothing has happened. And I sent in all the addresses, and I'm sure it's, something to do with waiting to hear back from the owner. But in the meantime, everybody else is having to look at that trash, smell that trash, and possibly have,
Right.
rodents, insects. So.
And I'm sure they're stacked up, like the city manager says, but
Sure.
we can get them, certified mail notices to the last known address, and at the time we give them and the letter goes by and nothing happens, and we can take action.
Oh, City Attorney, City
And
Manager.
Mayor and Councilor Garrett, had a conversation with the mayor yesterday, I think it was, and the city attorney about these situations. And we are working to try and figure it out. We need to be able to deal with it even if there are no rodents and so forth. And, if they, these are sometimes evictions voluntarily, that people are told that you didn't pay your rent, get out, and they just don't have anywhere else to go, and they put stuff out, and because they don't have anywhere to take it, they put it out on the curb or on the property, and our garbage trucks go by. Obviously, if it's on private property, they don't go on private property, and they are faced with, if you take a bicycle that has one wheel on it, then someone's going to call and want you to pay for the bicycle. And, because it looks like stuff that's usable. So if you take it, and we face this all the time, my office gets the call and they want you to pay for what you took. And so we just got to figure it out. I'd love to see where the property owner is responsible for, if you ask someone to get out and they put it out there, you need to go and move it. And if you don't move it, we need to be able to move it, and then we're going to put a lien on your property. They were your tenant, and it's there because you told them to get out. So I wanted you to know I've had a conversation with the mayor. He's, concerned, and city attorney and assistant city attorney, so we're trying to talk through it and figure it out.
Well, you've got my support, and y'all just let me know what you need me a sponsor.
Sure.
Thank you. And Councilor Garrett's been a a very vocal and ardent supporter of trying to get some of this stuff cleaned up, and I know it's frustrating. It's such an interesting issue because the private property rights are deeply embedded in our government at the federal and the state level and locally. And what we sometimes lose sight of is that while we protect that one individual, and not incorrectly, there are a dozen neighbors that are suffering because we're following the due diligence. And there's got to be a better way, just like we challenge our city employees to be innovative, think of new ways to address old problems. We're going to do the same thing with the city attorney's office and help us find a way. We want to follow the law, but we want to expedite the process too. And people shouldn't be allowed to hide behind claiming they didn't receive notification. So we're going to work on it, and if we do any legislative changing, absolutely, Councilor Garrett, we'll get you involved in it. So thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the city attorney? All right, we'll move on to the public agenda. Our first individual is Mr. Brandon Wallace. Mr. Wallace, we've made some recent changes to the public agenda, so you'll be given 5 minutes. I'll interject with like a minute to go and encourage you to kind of start bringing it to a conclusion.
I got a small presentation I made of some pictures and stuff and things I'd like for you guys just to really think about. Is there a way to put this up?
You'll have to, Bruce, is there a way to get that put up?
Can you email it?
Mr. Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry.
We can't put that up, and if you have something you'd like put up, we need it in advance too.
Oh, well, I called and I asked if I had something on it.
So you have it on your, what do you have on your phone?
It's on my phone. I mean, it's like a flash drive. Just plug it in. It's like a keynote presentation.
Well,
what if we could get those, if you can email those to the clerk, she will email them to all of council.
Yeah.
I hate to ask you to do that, but I certainly understand
Can I use that little projector thing?
yes.
Well,
Yeah, you could use
I think it's more of a policy that anything that hadn't been viewed by any member of staff.
Because we'd like to see what it is before you.
And you
Oh,
can.
it's just trash.
Yeah, you.
But it's cleaned up trash and then it's trash.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if we can, we'll get someone to assist him with the overhead. But just know that in the future, we do need it in advance. Yeah.
I apologize.
Okay, you can, and I'll start your time as soon as you begin your comments.
All right, my name is Brandon Wallace, 2419 Coventry Drive. Councilor Garrett is my counselor, and I just want to applaud him. He has worked hard. Anytime, and this is not only from me, but other people in my neighborhood and in our district, anytime that anybody has any issues, if they contact him, he really does do his job, and he gets on it. And that's true for all you guys, I know. I'm here to talk about a stinky situation, and I heard a little bit about your discussions, but I'm going at it from a little different perspective. And that is when people move or get evicted. So the homeowner, and I actually did this, so this was before, the homeowner bagged it very similar to this. This is neatly bagged for the city to come by and pick up. She moved, she bagged it up, she set it out by the street. The problem is now, when other people not in my neighborhood come and visit and they rip these bags open and they cause, this is another picture of that, and they cause mess like this or like this. They're ripping the black bags open, dumping the trash out, and leaving. And that's where the issue comes. So you're going to cite the homeowner, for doing the right thing on a Tuesday. So our trash day is on a Monday, for instance. So on a Tuesday, it gets bagged up like that because they left or got evicted or whatever. It sits there for a whole week. Then it ends up like this or like that. And this is other areas of Columbus. And you can see the black bags where the black bags were, it was done properly, but by the time the city truck made it around, it gets ripped open and spread everywhere. So I had to ask myself, why do people go through trash? Or you know, why is this happening? The news came out to my house. They were knocking on doors and they said, hey, would you speak to us? And I said, you know what, this is happening all over Columbus. This just isn't right here. This is happening all over. And I spoke to them, really taken off guard. But one question she did ask me is, well, what do you think needs to happen? Instead of being a person that's just online complaining, I want to be a person that comes to you and talks to you about it, because there's actually no ordinance or anything available to prevent people from opening the black trash bag and going through it. I watched a WTVM thing last night on the news, and it was about the Flat Rock and Cooper Creek. I want to tell you something. Our Parks and Rec department is phenomenal. Now, I've had more dealings with them than other departments over the years, but Miss Holly Browder is on top. You go to city parks, 99% of the time, there's nothing wrong. Those employees are working. It's getting done. She is a phenomenal leader in the community and runs her department exceptionally. That's my opinion, but I'm only one person. I believe what's really happening is, because I watched this happen on my street, I get up at 4:30 in the morning and go work out at CrossFit. And actually witnessed newer cars going through this trash. And I'm thinking, why in the world are they going through this trash? And I believe they're stealing people's information. That's the only thing I can think of that's valuable, that they're going through. I mean, this stuff's been sitting, it sat there for 4 weeks before I actually got out there. So we have a median in our road. Coventry Drive has a median. 311 came out one time and bagged it up, or got it and did it. Subsequent phone calls didn't get anywhere with the stuff that was left. So when Codes and Enforcement came...
Mr. Wallace, you've got 1 minute left.
Yes,
I just want to let you know.
So when Codes Enforcement came, the guy said, oh, it's going to sit there for 3 or 4 weeks. The trash that was in front of the house that I bagged up to look like that. I did that because I needed that gone. I have a lot of old people on my street. They really do work hard on their yards, and they don't need to be out here having this stuff blow around. So all I'm asking for is that you guys pass some ordinance to prevent people from opening or going through black trash bags. That is opening the can and dumping stuff out, literally dumping stuff out and going through it. Because you can't cite the homeowner, they've done their job. The marshals made sure they did their job before they left. So that's what I'm here for. I'd like some kind of ordinance or something. Y'all passed similar laws. So.
Mr. Wallace, we appreciate your comments and the fact that you've been working on this. Councilor Davis.
Mr. City Manager, understanding we have routes for regular trash pickup, garbage, etc. Do we communicate with the Marshal's Department when there are evictions and things like that going on, so maybe can coordinate some efforts? I'm just throwing that question out there. I know these routes, we have routes, scheduled routes and all, and we may be limited in equipment and personnel, but is there any?
They do coordinate on evictions.
They communicate a lot on that, when it's going to happen and all?
They do. They've got a process. And staff, if you want to comment on it, but they worked years ago on a coordination process, and as far as I know, it works. But things like what has been presented seem to be people looking for something.
Well, Mr. Wallace has presented some, I mean, I see what he presents, I see the same thing. I think we all see the same thing.
Tell us what you do with the marshal. How do you coordinate?
Okay, when a complaint comes in at
No, an eviction.
With eviction?
Yeah.
They send out an email to our department, including 311 and sanitation, and we keep a record of all the addresses of evictions. Now, we do not go out that day to that residence to pick up the eviction waste. We do, however, pick it up on their normal route. So you were correct by saying that.
So tell them who you are.
I'm Kyle McGee, Deputy Public Works Director.
But the issue is when they do come around on their route and the bags have been ripped open, slung around, they just keep on, they leave a little sign, a little piece of paper, and they keep on going.
And Ms. Wallace, this is going to make me look like the bad guy, but I can't allow you to interact with council anymore because your time's up. You can't, I apologize, but you can stay around if you want to. At the end of the meeting, we'll give you a little bit more time to talk. But if you want to, you can have a seat and listen to the staff talk about some of the plans to try to get it fixed.
And Mayor, not to prolong it, I just wanted you to know that there is a coordination process.
Okay. All right. Councilor Allen?
Well, to piggyback on that, I was going to ask if there could be a coordination process to allow the eviction to occur, or the items to be put on the street in coordination with the pickup, so that it is picked up in a timely fashion.
Well, we'd have to communicate to landlords the garbage collection day.
Right.
That they would put it out the night before or the morning of. And so we could certainly provide to landlords the garbage collection day for all of the areas of Columbus so that they know whether it's on Tuesday or Friday or whatever. I don't know that they'll allow, if they're going to evict on a Monday and the garbage collection is on a Friday, I don't know how I don't think that would work. Yeah.
Well, there just seems to be, if we're all in this together and we're all looking for a beautifying effect for our neighborhoods, it seems like some better coordination could work.
I can have staff look at how that might be done and see if we can come up with something.
I think a landlord knows when an eviction is going to occur, and a few days planning is not going to interrupt that type of situation. I mean, they know fully a week out that they're going to have to evict someone, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, so they could coordinate the eviction to occur in a timely fashion to allow the city to pick it up. Well, we can talk to the marshal. That's what I was asking city manager to do. We can talk with the marshal.
The landlord actually applies to the marshal's office, and the eviction goes through the court system. The marshal's office notifies us in Public Works when the eviction is going to happen and when the stuff goes out on the curb. But it's very often, not the same day. We've been meeting with the marshal's office. We are trying to coordinate that already, and we'll continue our efforts to identify a new process that will eliminate some of that. We are working on it.
Can you report back to us?
We can.
Okay.
Thank
you.
We will.
Yes, sir. Councilor Woodson.
Yes, I think the city manager said this, but I'm not sure. Clifton, can we look at that if legally we can do that, where we can hold the property owner responsible for taking the stuff to the landfill or wherever he needs to dispose of it instead of putting it out on the street?
Sure, we can look at all.
And I don't know if that's, I don't know if I kind of heard it or my brain just thought about it, but you know, I think that if the landlord knows that he or she gonna evict someone and they know when they're gonna do it, then maybe they can make arrangements to get all the stuff out of the house. Because if I understand it correctly, when the marshal goes out there, they summon the individual and they put the things out to the street. Well, instead of putting it out to the street, let it be the landlord's responsibility to get it out of there because it's in his property. He evicted the individual.
Well, that's
and I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas.
That's been a time-honored practice with landlords and the marshal, but now you can criminalize the stuff sitting there on the landlord's property if you want to. You're going to get calls if you do, but you can certainly criminalize it, give him 24 hours to get rid of it, or he gets a ticket.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the landlord's responsibility will be to dispose of it instead of putting it on the sidewalk. That's what I'm asking for you to look into, possibility. Or maybe if the marshal puts it out, the landlord has so many days to clean it up himself and take it to the landfill or wherever he needs to take it. I mean, we're just throwing ideas of possibilities so that you can talk about it and see what in the
That's probably a bigger discussion. Usually you regulate the right-of-way and not private property, but you can certainly look into somehow criminalizing the garbage sitting there more than 24 hours.
And Mr. Mayor, we will come back with a follow-up and consider those things from Councilor Woodson and Councilor Allen. And the one thing that, you know, I'll just mention that Deputy City Manager Goodwin has been talking to me about when an eviction occurs and it comes at an expense, and I don't know if it will work, but we'll certainly consider that too. Those are portable storage, put it in boxes or whatever, but I don't know. We'll come back.
Yeah, I think this needs a deeper dive with members of the real estate community, get some of the landlords involved, and I think when they hear words like criminalizing, not leaving it out there, they're going to be anxious to join the discussion, because you got to keep in mind that if those landlords are paying an extra cost, they are going to pass that on. So if they pass that on to the residents, then you've got a little bit of a bump in what the rent's going to be, and you know, some of these are properties at the lower end of the rent scale anyway. So I think engaging with them is a great idea, though.
We'll come back.
Mayor. And thank you, because it's just thoughts. I mean, we're all putting some ideas out here to see and take them back and massage them and see what we can come with. And I do agree with the gentleman, because I've seen where now I have gotten a container to put all my personal stuff instead of throwing it in the trash, because one time I put, not me, my kids were cleaning out my garage and they were putting all kinds of stuff, and I came home and there was a gentleman in a truck, you know, going through all my things. And, you know, so and I asked him, oh, excuse me, what are you doing? And, you know, became a very interesting conversation, but you're correct. They go through things that they can refurnish and sell, and then they do go looking through those little credit card things they send you, you know, all these other home loan stuff. So I've learned now not to put my personal stuff, you know, in the trash. And I have them come and get it once a month and empty it out and dispose of it. But not everybody can do that. So just some food for thought, some of the things
Mayor,
that we could.
Yes, sir.
One more comment on the littering ordinance. All the police are familiar with it, Section 13-153 of the Columbus Code. But if anybody sees anybody breaking into bags of trash, pulling things out, dumping them on the ground, or stealing information, please call the police, because that is a violation of law.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to ask the staff, how long does the trash have to stay out there? Because I have also heard that it has been at least 3 weeks.
Just take a little while.
For evictions, I guess?
For evictions, we generally wait 24 hours before we go out to pick it up, so that if the property owner wants to retrieve anything, they have the opportunity. That's been the practice. We're looking at that too, as part of reviewing this process.
So we don't have to wait a week to call it in?
No, not a week.
Hello? Councilor Davis?
It's obvious that we have room for improvement, whether we do it on the public works side, or whether we do it with the marshal and the property owners. But to, you know, and I understand you want to meet your schedules, but to meet your schedules and you throw it out there and say, I'll let the city deal with it after that, that just, it's not working. And I'll give you an example. I mean, can you imagine just going up and down 2nd Avenue? That's a gateway into our city. And I've seen it several times where it just sits out there. That just, you know, I get the calls. I mean, Councilor Woodson gets the calls. Councilor Garrett gets the calls. We all get the calls. But there's got to be a way to improve this whole situation. So I'd like to encourage the city manager and the staff to please work on that. And like Councilor Allen said, may bring us something back here soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Crabb?
It is my understanding as a landlord that we are required to leave the items on the property for at least 24 hours after an eviction to give the tenant opportunity to come back and get their items. So what I was wondering, is it possible that we coordinate with the Sheriff's Department and the Marshal's Department on these evictions, and we have a designated truck that, 24 hours after the eviction has happened, that designated truck goes around to these neighborhoods and picks up these items after the 24 hours is up?
That's another suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, again, we can take a look at that as we come back, but I'll just say to you, we're going to have to get something out of the landlords that they get out of the tenants, either on the front end or the back end. I mean, it's kind of like the tree for fee. I mean, if they get, as part of their deposit on the front end, that, it's going to cost you $50 if, we evict you and they have to come out on a special trip, because if we know who the landlord is, and if we go out on a special trip, somebody's got to pay for it because we just don't have the resources.
Can I make a suggestion? Sure. When we file for eviction, maybe there's something on the form where you check, that you charge and you pay an additional $100 or whatever on that eviction form that for city pickup. Right. Because some of us arrange for, people to come and pick it up afterwards. Yeah. But others may not have that.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about, either on the front end or the back end.
I'd say on the front end.
Well, we'll bring that back as part of, Mr. Mayor, we'll bring it back.
All right, we had a few more councilors waiting and queued up. Councilor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the public agenda question, though, was can we punish the people that are taking the stuff out of the trash, not the landlords? And it sounds like from what the city attorney says, the litter ordinance that we currently have allows us to punish people that are breaking open the bags.
Absolutely, it does.
So then, if you see it, if you see a car tag, you might be able to report it or something like that. Hard to arrange that, but nonetheless, it is against the ordinance right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Thomas.
And along that same line, Councilor House, I would like to see us have a very aggressive campaign with the Public Works Department and the Police Department to respond to these, particularly not necessarily the landlord piece, but the other dumps, if you will. And as long as you have an aggressive program, during that time, excuse me, during that time, people are going to stop doing it because the cops are out there. Okay, so when that wears off, we'll have another one. But to make sure that the Columbus Police Department is fully aware of what we are trying to do, and it may be that we need to have a conversation between you and the Public Works and the Police Department and whomever, whatever it takes to stop that. I've called several times, not necessarily where there is an eviction, but where people have just dumped stuff on the side of the road. And typically, if it's not on private property, if it's on the right-of-way, you guys come pick it up. But I think if we can do something very aggressively to begin with, because Mr. Wallace is, of course, not the only citizen that has brought this to our attention, and I think it would be well received throughout the community if we could get something, a program, if you will.
Yes.
Thank you.
And CCG TV.
Thank you. Well, and I will say that I know the mayor's office gets half a dozen calls a day, and we've focused on a couple of aspects of this issue, I'm telling you, one of our biggest issues is this garbage never finds its way to a receptacle. It's thrown out of windows. It's
Yes.
gathering on the streets.
Yes.
There has to be a community conversation about this, because you saw the report. People think that Parks and Rec and Public Works doesn't do anything during the day, I guess. We're cleaning out trash cans and picking up trash every day at every park in this city, and yet you ride through later in the day, and if you've been gone 2 hours, it looks like nobody's been there. And until the people of this community decide they've had enough of that, our folks are not going to be able to keep this city clean by themselves. So we're going to have some conversations. I've even asked about buying game cameras, setting them up and moving them from place to place where we've got frequent dumping. Let's catch them and let's get with the environmental court judge, and let's not only hit them with as big a fine as they'll let us, but let's put them in community service where they have to pick up trash for the next 30 days. So those are the kind of things we're talking about. We're all furious about this. I hate seeing this city that I love so much.
Every day is a new.
Yeah, it looks like people just wait for it to get cleaned up and go throw stuff out again. So it's going to be something that I didn't mean to get kind of worked up. It really drives me nuts. Councilor Woodson.
Well, I'm glad it drives you nuts. Because it drives
Short
us.
trip.
Yes, I'm glad it drives you nuts because it drives me nuts and many of us around here and the good citizens out there that do not litter. I can even give you a story a couple weeks ago, right in front of, no, not in front of my house, but the house right next to me. Somebody dumped all their garbage on the road. And I was furious because the neighbors are driving right over it. There are people driving right over the trash, going around it, and won't pick it up. They expect us to do it. We all need to come together. I went out there and put on some gloves and a bag, and I started to pick it up. A neighbor of mine came out, and people still are being disrespectful. People drove by us like we weren't even there. You know, at one point, I flagged the guy down. I put my hand almost to hit his windshield because, like, can you see we're here? We're picking up the mess, and you're speeding. So we do need that campaign. We need that where people come together and have a little more respect for the community or those that are out there cleaning it. So I'm with you on that.
You got me? Okay,
Let's
got
go
my
for
back.
it.
Thank you. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. You're spot on in your comments, and this is a stepping stone, but it's dealing on the subject, and while we're on the subject, I might as well get it out there. But I'd like to see maybe a work session one day that we can talk about, for lack of a better term, there's people out there that need a job and would be willing to do something on a daily basis. And there may be, and I'll give you an example. I was in Chattanooga not long ago, and they hire citizens on a daily basis and reward them something. And you know what? They go out and they pick up trash, or they go out and they identify people parking in the wrong places. But they help the city where you're lacking the resources to deal with these things, so it never gets done. But they are able to come up with real creative solutions to solve some of these problems. I'd like to maybe explore that possibly, maybe a work session, or at least, Mr. City Manager, have the staff to look at that. Maybe we can make a dinner, like I said earlier, about finding ways, you know, there's room for improvement always, and maybe there's some things we can do to solve some of these matters or problems that we're talking about.
Yes, sir, I agree. Thank you. Mr. Wallace, before we move on, thank you for initiating this conversation. Ms. Biegler, anything else?
We are working on plans, we'll continue to, and we'll get back with you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Next individual, Mr. John Wright. If you would, sir, give your name and you can go to this one. Oh, unless you have pictures.
I believe she passed it on.
Okay.
I'm John Wright, 6823 Whitesville Road, Columbus, Georgia, 31904. But I actually go by my middle name, which is Michael.
He started him?
Started.
He started.
You're good.
So I'm here to request on behalf of the landlord and the tenant that the landlord has procured at 5381 Veterans Parkway. And what you're being passed out is just a map from the city website showing As you can see, the intersection of the roadways, you've got 54th Street towards the top of the page, intersecting with Veterans Parkway, heading southbound, also where that meets Airport Thruway. And so the property we're talking about is, like I said, 5381 Veterans Parkway. It's 3 doors down from that intersection. The property just to the north of it is already zoned general commercial. And as you can see in the orange, notating all the properties that are already zoned general commercial. It is from a miscommunication or oversight from the landlord to a tenant that they had a history with to lease their property to, that their wishes were to open a tattoo parlor. And currently in the city of Columbus, only property zoned in the general commercial property zoning status can operate a tattoo parlor. So while this tenant is already in place, would like to request a temporary certificate of occupancy while the owner goes through the necessary means and bounds to have the property rezoned from neighborhood commercial to general commercial. And that's it in a nutshell in basically 90 seconds.
Any comments, questions? I don't see any lights on.
Make a motion for that.
Can someone ask the city attorney to come forward, please?
Give us some, yeah.
Mr. Wright, if you don't mind, I do apologize. One
Not a
moment,
problem.
please. Thank you.
And if you're having a problem referencing where this building is, it's the old Team Sports location on Veterans Parkway, just south of the Airport Thruway, 54th Street intersection. Previously, Tidal Wave, Tidal Pond was there as well. If that helps give you a reference where it's at.
That's Walker's. That's Walker's district. Oh, Lucy's here.
Counselor.
Yes.
At the appropriate time, staff will have comments on this request.
Gary? Bruce, can you help me? I can't turn on Gary.
Yes, ma'am. So if you're looking at the map, do you see the intersection of 54th Street, Airport Thruway, and Veterans Parkway? That roadway?
Bruce, can you turn on Gary? It won't let me.
It's on.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I can point it out here unless, yes.
I think it's right there. It's right there.
It's right there, right?
I think it's the third one up.
Okay. This one.
Does that help?
No, point to the lot that you're talking about.
Okay, it's the one I just showed you in, right here.
Okay, that's the one.
You see the end of my point there?
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's outlined in red from where it was selected on.
It's difficult to see on this.
Understood, and I apologize. What's currently there is right without this tenant, it'd be a vacant building. It's a commercial building. Previously was Tidal Wave, Tidal Pond, and predecessing that would be Team Sports.
Okay, I'm familiar with it now, yeah.
All right.
Gary was.
Councilor Allen?
I'm the only one following protocol here. But,
I turned my back for a minute.
Right,
I didn't do it.
there is somebody in there now?
Yes, sir, but they cannot operate without a certificate of occupancy, and in order to get that, it has to be general commercial rather than neighborhood commercial.
But my question is, they're in there working now, operating as a business, and your question to us is?
They are not operating. They will not operate without the certificate of occupancy.
Okay, so in the interim, until they receive the rezoning request, you're asking us if they can operate?
Yes, I'm requesting a certificate of occupancy while we go through as the landlord to rezone from neighborhood commercial to general commercial.
my question to city manager or city attorney is, are we allowed to do that if they're, I mean, I don't recall this happening before, but.
Well, the response is no, and I'd like staff to respond to it.
Ideally, I mean, we kind of be circumventing the UDO, because if the point is to come in to get the rezoning, what if he goes to PAC and they deny it for whatever reason, and then that person's operating, and then we're kind of like 710 again. It's like you got somebody already working in it, and then depending on how that agreement goes, so we would not approve it, because when they came to the counter, that's what we told them. Until the rezoning has completed, then we would move forward with allowing them to operate a business at that location for that use.
And then there's the assumption that the rezoning is going to be approved, you know. It's
correct.
You're operating on that assumption.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Wright? All right, is there any, it would require, Mr. Wright, it would require a motion of council. So lacking a motion, they will, there'll be no action taken. Is there any motion to be made? I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry? All right, if there's no further discussion, we will move on to the city manager's agenda. Yes, sir.
I've got just a few items. The first is 15th Avenue closure and abandonment. Our engineering department and community reinvestment department received an application from Old Greg LLC to acquire the unimproved section of 15th Avenue. The applicant has maintained this property since 2012 and requested acquisition.
Move approval.
There's a motion, second. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, we'll post it and give you all a chance to register your votes, please. All right, it passes.
Next, I've got a request. The Together 2016 fund through the Community Foundation approved a $16,000 grant. And let me just say that I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi. I'm a member of the Omega Foundation, but I have no interest in this, but I wanted to just make that known, and that's why I don't hesitate to present it. But Together 2016 through the Community Foundation approved a $16,000 grant through the Omega Foundation to provide markers along the Martin Luther King Jr. Outdoor Learning Trail. The city assisted in identifying the specific location of the markers and will be responsible for the installation of the markers. The city will be reimbursed from the grant $5,500 for the installation.
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion, second, to approve the grant and the placing of the markers. Any questions or any comments to the motion? Hearing none, please queue it for vote and enter your votes, please. Motion passes. I want to recognize some of the folks that have been involved in this and thank them for this. I know we talked about it with Mr. Buckner here, I think, at the work session. This is an amazing addition to what is already a fantastic trail system that's eventually linking our entire community. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we do have those people, as you've mentioned, and I failed to recognize them, but thank you for coming. Next, I've got a request from AFLAC. Our engineering department received a request from Alfred Blackmore, who's Vice President of Facilities with AFLAC, to close and transfer title of Jeanette Avenue to AFLAC. They're working on a physical site security plan at its Winton Road campus to include ingress, egress. They own the property on both sides of Jeanette Avenue.
Motion second. We've got to the motion, Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to state for the record, I do work at Aflac. I talked to the city attorney, and there is no restrictions on me voting on this. It's just a reshaping the campus, as the city manager said, for security purposes and ingress and egress from our policyholders and others, visitors. So just wanted to make that statement.
Okay, thank you. That's right. Councilor Huff.
Just to Director Newman, I'm always proud to say that Aflac Tower piece is in my district. Are they happy with everything? Did they need anything else? They're good? Okay. I'm good.
Okay. Councilor Crabb.
I too need to disclose that my husband works for Aflac.
Okay. Councilor Huff.
I guess I need to disclose my wife works for Aflac also.
Well, I guess I should say I have a few shares of Aflac stock. It's been going to be kind of tough to find somebody that isn't connected with Aflac, but
Unless you're going to sell some stock right here at the table.
no, not doing that.
They don't have a personal interest in it.
Okay, not doing that. All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the Jeanette Avenue closure and abandonment. All right, cue it up, and y'all may enter your votes, please.
So you just started?
Okay, it passes.
And, Mr. Mayor and Council, as I go into the purchases, I am going to delay item D, Traffic Incident Management Services, which is our towing service, and also item E, Amendment 1 for architectural and engineering services for Mott's Green Plaza enhancement. I'm going to delay those two items. And so with that, item A, membership dues for Georgia Municipal Association, $35,024.48 for 2019. We're asking your approval.
No, there's a motion and a second. Councilor Woodson, is this to the motion?
Not to the motion. I wanted to go back to item.
Okay, well, let's vote on this, and then we'll go back to it. So we've got a motion second to approve the membership dues for GMA. Any discussion? Hearing none, please cue the vote, and y'all can enter your votes. It passes. Thank you. Now, just a second. Councilor Woodson, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the city manager, do we know how long the delay will be? Because I do see some people here in reference to this so that they know, or would they be communicated back to them, letting them know when we'll be looking at it again?
Well, yes, our purchasing division, finance office will communicate.
We'll contact those?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, motion made to approve B, C, and F. It's been seconded. Any discussion?
It's a vehicle.
All right, hearing none, if you cue the vote for those items. It's B, C, and F. D and E have been delayed. All right, those items passed. And Mr. City Manager, you might want to mention what those were, just so the public is aware of what we're voting on.
B would be body-worn cameras and subscription agreement for the police department. C would be dial-a-ride buses for Metro, and F would be just cleanup of some numbers that were that you approved on an F-150. Had extra numbers in there, and we don't need extra numbers, so they had to get that right.
Okay.
And so that's what that is.
All right. There's two additions too, I think, on those emergency.
Yeah, I am going to mention those.
Okay.
I was going to, they don't need to vote on those.
All right. They've already voted. I think they've already passed.
Okay. Then I would just mention the emergency purchases. We came to you at a previous meeting, and we talked about the jail repairs that were needed. We presented to you those repairs and the cost, and so we proceeded forward with those. And the funding source is OLAS, Public Safety Reserves. Then we presented to you on the A.J. McClung Memorial Stadium repairs, and it was discovered that there are voids underneath the concrete bleachers and the slab between the press box and bleachers. We proceeded forward with those emergency purchases.
Councilor Huff had a comment.
Once you finish that, I needed to make a comment.
Okay.
I have a comment.
That's good.
Okay. And then the purchase of a forklift for the recycling center were the emergency purchases.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Well, we don't need.
Oh, we don't need, okay.
Yeah.
That's notification. Never mind. Now, Councilor.
Okay. I just went to the city manager. I was speaking with Director of Metro in the back, and she said it was already in motion, I think, with Councilor Crabb and you and others on the employees of Metro that had the incident that saved the passengers on the bus and everything, that there would be something coming forward to acknowledge them for their great work.
I'll discuss that with you, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And so, Mr. Mayor, with that, I've got some.
We've got one more comment. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to the emergency purchase request on the stadium. Mr. City Manager, can we have a conversation with the school district? I know they're in the process of doing a lot of changes at their various schools and their athletic facilities and all, but we've got a gym sitting right down there. I mean, it's a jewel. And maybe there's a way that we can combine our resources and work together on this, and in return for utilization of a magnificent facility. And I'm just thinking out loud here and opening that conversation on where they can utilize these facilities, and maybe they wouldn't have to invest so much in other places, but maybe we can come up with a working agreement that's acceptable by both parties that would help in some of these areas in updating and renovating and remodeling our facilities. They're in desperate need of that. Here's a case that we have, and there may be something that we can do together, but you know, it's going to take sitting down and exploring these possibilities.
We do have those conversations, and we have intergovernmental agreements with them that we sign where we use some of their facilities, they use some of our facilities, and we're happy to have further discussion on how we can continue to work together. As you know, we are in some of their schools. They do use Memorial Stadium for high school football games and South Commons, and we do share our facilities already, and we do have written intergovernmental agreements with them on the use of those facilities.
Well, again, I've heard some talk in the community that maybe some of those agreements are not acceptable, but anyway, having those conversation, or maybe we can do something that is, sure, and solve some real problems. I mean, come up with some real solutions that we have. It just, you know, maybe you can work through it. I just would like to encourage our staff to do that.
Okay.
You know, years ago, it's been a lot of years, but the superintendent and the mayor and a couple of school board members and a couple of council members met on a regular basis. It never really got to, I don't think, a really fruitful discussion, but maybe it's time to revisit something like that and just bring, because the superintendent and I communicate, and we plan to communicate on a regular basis, but maybe we revisit that. We'll talk about it. Maybe we can get a few. Yeah, you can share it. Good idea. No, it is a good idea. Mr. City Manager, continue.
So, Mr. Mayor, just proceeding, and I've got some updates, and I'm going to change the order in which they are listed. I know a couple of council members say they've got to leave, and we do want to get through these. And so I am going to do the Uptown Entertainment District, and then we'll do the trails, and then transportation, but based on people, I know we've got some people here, and a council member has to leave, and that's his thing, entertainment.
Okay, if we've got councilors that have to leave, do we need to do the executive session?
Yeah.
All right, let's get through the first couple, and then we may break and have the executive session and move it on. Okay.
Sure. Entertainment.
Thank you.
Uptown Entertainment District update.
Good afternoon, members, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I want to be brief about showing this in terms of the proposed entertainment district. This is a conversation that's been going on with Uptown and with the city and with, of course, the police department as well. We want to just kind of bring you where we are in this whole process itself. The idea would be to establish an entertainment district. That is really another catchphrase in my mind for allowing for open containers, what we're really talking about in the Uptown area itself. It will allow for outdoor consumption of alcohol. It would identify a certain area that would be allowed for that process to happen. And it would, of course, allow establishing the area with valid alcohol license to serve alcohol beverages for carry-out purposes. In other words, you put it in a certain cup, and you're allowed to carry it to another place within that area itself. The boundaries right now, and these are only in discussion purposes right now, can really involve the south side of 10th Street, north to north side of 13th, and from the east side of Broadway, west to the west side of Bay Street. These are just those ideas in mind here, and the map here is only, again, for illustration purposes. Sales for carry-out itself, you're going to carry out an open container. You must have an open premise consumption license, which allows the license holder to dispense alcohol for removal from the premises itself. It's got to be in a shatterproof container, if it's going to happen at all. And then it's also got to have a commercially printed sticker that's on that cup or device that is issued from Uptown itself involved with that. And then no more than one alcoholic beverage per person from that establishment. Again, continuing on with this, it's got to be a maximum of 16 fluid ounces is what they can carry. Again, the container cannot shatter or break. It's got to be purchased from an on-premise licensed establishment, and it must be consumed within that entertainment district itself. You cannot carry it to other parts of the area, of the downtown area itself from that. You can't bring anything from the outside in with this. It's open containers go from that. You can't take the open container into a private business, such as a clothing store or somebody who doesn't have an alcohol license. You just can't walk in with that open container. It's mainly for the outdoor use only. You can't really be in possession or consumption on any sidewalk that's adjacent to a school or church or city park. The city park, does have a little bit of leeway here in terms of if you have a special permit for an event going on down there close to it on a park property, such as close to the Riverwalk itself, that is pretty much would be the exception. But again, you have to have a special permit to make that go about from that standpoint. Lawful hours would really be anything between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m., 7 days a week, Sunday through Saturday for here. And of course, you cannot consume that open container in a vehicle itself. You cannot go buy one and go sit in your car and drink it. That's not the intent here. The next steps involved with this, and we'll hopefully be bringing this forward to you in the near future, is the Columbus Police Department, of course, has got to agree to these boundaries more than anything else, because they're the ones going to have to enforce it and deal with it. And Uptown Columbus Board itself has also got to come to some kind of agreement on this process about what they think needs to happen with the boundaries and the open containers and so forth. They've got to sign off on this as well. This is really an Uptown Columbus venture. They are asking for this consideration. Again, departments like mine are trying to work through this with them and make sure they understand what we're trying to achieve. But they've all got to come to some kind of agreement before we bring anything else back to this council for consideration and eventually a vote. So with that, Mr. City Manager, that concludes my presentation.
Councilor Allen.
And this is a follow-up to our discussion with trash and littering and that kind of thing. You mentioned that the container will have a printed logo of some type.
Yes.
Would that be able to be tracked back to the person that bought the alcoholic beverage?
I'm not sure if that's sophisticated, and I'm not sure we've gone through that process. But that's something that we'll have to consider before we bring an ordinance back to you.
I mean, it seemed like a barcode or something could
Yes,
be
right.
utilized in that situation, then we can control that better.
Okay.
We might look at tracking it back to the establishment, but not necessarily to the person. Yeah.
Well, my thought was if you track it back to the person, then they throw it on the sidewalk, then uptown purple people can, take some action.
Yeah, we'd have to see how that would work out, but we can certainly look into it to see if that's a possibility.
Councilor Crabb made a good point. It would control sales to minors as well.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, sir. Councilor Thomas?
Mr. Jones, would you go back to the boundaries slide? I'm curious as to a couple of things. On Bay Avenue, that area that is the parkway there, is that not included because people just don't go down there with this kind of open container? The same thing I'm looking with 14th Street and the pedestrian bridge and maybe Mott's Green. And the other piece that I'm wondering about is the new facilities going in, or the new facilities going in there at, again, at 14th Street, where the W.C. Bradley apartments are going in there, and there's going to be, as I understand it, green space, and they're going to be, I don't know if they're going to be places there that sell alcohol or not, but I'm just wondering why those were not included.
Well, Councilor Thomas, let me go back, and I was real reluctant in showing you this because these boundaries have not been really established or set. I want to give you an idea what's been the conversation so far. The biggest issue that I've heard in terms of dealing with these boundaries is how do we go about enforcing them? How do we know when they're in a certain area or not in a certain area? And that's where we need guidance, really, not only from the police department on this, but from Uptown itself, in terms of how we go about governing this area and maintaining it. I think the police department, of course, is also not only concerned about the boundaries, but having such a large area to enforce that it may become unmanageable. And I think we just got to work through that. There are areas, like you're talking about along the Riverwalk there, that could be, some of this other property is particularly up there where the rapids is being constructed and going in. That's private property for the most part. We haven't really haven't included them, not included them. And I think
do you know if they're going to do any kind of alcoholic sales in the rapids? I know they're doing some on-premise sales. I know that they're, at one point they were talking about a grocery store type thing that would sell beer and wine and maybe.
I do not know it for a fact, but I'd be surprised if they didn't do something along those lines.
You would be surprised?
I'd be surprised if they didn't do something along those lines in terms of on-premise, or beer sales or whatever at that point. So, again, this is something. It's a work in progress. I want to bring it really to your attention so that you won't get blindsided by it later on when somebody asks a question about it. I want to let you know where we are at this stage of the game.
And typically, though, the area around 14th Street, the bridge, the pedestrian bridge, and Mott's Green, and the property down on Bay would be with a special permit.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that would not apply. These rules would not apply if you have a special permit.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, in quick question, I guess if this is approved and we see the uptown footprint continue to shift and grow, that we can add blocks or add sections as well, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry. Mayor Pro Tem?
My question was about the underage drinking. I know you said the barcode on the cup. They're going to have wristbands?
I don't recall the discussion being about wristbands, but something we can certainly look in.
But all the details have not been worked out, but Columbus Police Department, they're very involved, and if they don't approve of it, it's not going to happen. And so we will certainly, I know in other communities, wherever you go, Civic Center, wherever, you've got to have a wristband.
Right.
When you go in, you got to show your ID, get a wristband, and so I'm sure that's going to be part of it.
It'll be easier for them to identify those who should be drinking and who shouldn't be.
Right.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Is that all? Councilor Garrett.
Director Jones, the only thing I would ask is that we try and get the meeting of the minds as much as we can with the police department up down in Columbus by this summer, just when things start to really ramp up downtown. And, I mean, as one of the other councilors said, or maybe it was Mayor Henderson, we can always add, I mean, if we can at least get a baseline set up so we could experiment with it this summer, and we can experiment in a smaller area, see if it works, and then we can expand as the business owners request it. So just if we could try and get something going before the summer, I'd be in full support of that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Councilor Hub?
Will this exclude the splash pad area where the kids play?
I'm working off memory here, Council Huff, I would say yes, it has to.
Put the boundary back up.
Yeah, that's below
it does,
10.
yes.
That's the park.
That's the park. There's a splash pad down there.
Yeah,
That's right.
splash pad's on the other side.
That would
Yeah.
be, this is the splash pad.
Show them where the splash.
Right now, it would.
Rick, mark the splash pad.
Because I didn't want them walking around over there drinking where the kids are playing. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right.
That's
Thank
it,
you,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, thank you. And so next, we'll have Deputy City Manager Hodge with the trail update.
And what we'll do, if you don't mind, is after this update, if we could go into the executive session, just in case any of the councilors have to leave, we'll have a quorum.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. I would like for all that are here related to the trails to stand. I think most of those that are left in the audience are here and are participants and supporters of the trail network. Mr. Tickner's here from Fort Benning. He oversees the trail system at Fort Benning, so it's definitely a joint effort between Fort Benning and Columbus. So thank you. So I just wanted to give you a brief update of where we're at with the trail system, the components that have been completed, and the components and sections that we're looking at moving forward. This is the Dragonfly Trail System. You can see the portions in yellow are those that are completed. The portions with the red dotted line are those that we're looking to complete. This has been a public-private partnership between the city, the Friends of the Dragonfly Fund at the Community Foundation, as well as the PATH Foundation. They've been a great partner of ours throughout this process. As you know, the PATH Foundation is a 501c3, and they help communities all across the state and in the Southeast develop the trail systems and the private partnerships that we've been able to join in with. Having them as one of our partners has been a great experience. And the PATH Foundation has built over 280 miles of greenway trails and raised over $80 million from private sector for trail development. And when we talk about the trail system, it's not just building a network for recreation, it's also for transportation. Past nonprofit status makes work less expensive, and we've seen that through our sections that we've completed. Their experience and their connections make construction faster, and the design team is top level. Our partnership timeline, the master agreement we signed in August of 2015. The first segment was dedicated in April of 2018, and we just completed the second segment, which is the MLK Junior, which we had some pictures of that last time. And the Friends of the Dragonfly Trail at the Community Foundation has invested over $634,000 for design, survey, and engineering. So we definitely thank them for their participation in this project. So if you look at our implementation update and the sections of the Dragonfly Trail that we've done, these are the sections that are currently being completed or in the works. So the Bibb Mill Riverwalk and the City Mill Riverwalk are complete, and those portions will have a dedication ceremony coming soon. the Follow Me Trail, which we recently had a dedication ceremony, the 14th Street Connector, MLK Trail, and then we're looking at the MLK to the Riverwalk, the MLK to Lake Bottom, as well as the River Road. And you can see that this will broaden the path trail system throughout Columbus by adding these additional segments to our trail network. So we look at the River Mill, or the Bibb Mill Riverwalk. These are pictures from that segment of the trail. This is a connection that was done through T-Splost. And we will be having a dedication ceremony, but it's a beautiful enhancement to the Riverwalk section that will connect Bibb Mill.
Is that behind the River Mill?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. City Mills Riverwalk, which will go between the two buildings. That portion has also been completed. You can see that section of the Riverwalk is also completing that, so you don't have to go out onto First and come back on to the Riverwalk, so there'll be a direct connection through City Mills. The Follow Me Trail, which we did have a dedication ceremony not too long ago.
Excuse me, Ms. Hodge, we got Councilor Woodson with a question.
Pam, can you go back a couple more? Like right there. In that area, are we gonna have some benches or flowers or something where people can, like if they're walking? I'm remembering what I saw in New York. They did the railroads. They were abandoned, and they did similar to this, but they had like wooden benches, and people can lay there, even take a suntan there, read a book, people can lay and actually, I was wondering if we're looking at doing it something like that.
Yes, there is landscaping and benches and those sorts of things on different sections, so there will be at this section as well.
Because they're finishing this up, so she's got some early photos for you.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine, I was just wondering, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So these are pictures of the Follow Me Trail Bridge if you were not able to come out and see the dedication of this bridge that will cross Victory Drive. And then we did a dedication ceremony for the connection of 14th Street from the Fall Line Trace to the Riverwalk. We've also completed the MLK Trail from 10th Street to Brewer. You saw pictures of this at the last council meeting. The resurfacing on this road has also been completed. They still have some cleanup work to do and striping, but that project is coming along.
Hang on just a second. Ms. Hodge, Councilor Huff?
Any update on the little piece I asked about as far as the asphalt?
We are looking at that parking lot. To asphalt that parking lot would require a retention pond, so we're looking at some other alternatives to put on that parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
And some of the pieces that we're looking at connections is the MLK to the Riverwalk, and these is one of the options that we're looking at, leaving MLK on 10th Street. We're still having discussions about that. I know there's some reservations about crossing the railroad tracks, but this is potentially what it could look like if we went down 10th Street. Again, we're still looking at working with PATH and the Community Foundation on options for that connection.
Okay, just a second. Council, Mayor Pro Tem Pugh.
Ms. Hodge, on the part that Councilman Huff was talking about on MLK Boulevard, please make sure that it's wheelchair accessible, because gravel is kind of hard for people in wheelchairs.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So again, this is just one option that is being investigated with PATH Foundation on 10th. And then this is the section on 9th Street. So this is how it currently looks, and this is what they're researching now as far as moving down 9th Street. And this is the section behind the Trade Center, which would really change the look of that connection to the Riverwalk.
Councilor Thomas?
On the piece between there, Front Avenue and the river, that's a very, very narrow roadway. I don't think that it's even 2 cars wide, and it's a concern to me that we would have bikes going down in that area. It's my understanding that the reason that road is there to begin with is that because of the railroad tracks and the necessity for our emergency vehicles to get from one side of that railroad track to the other, in case of an emergency, they go down around by the Trade Center. And so I would be really concerned maybe too heavy a word, about what we're going to do down there to make sure that the people who are on the bicycles are safe, the people who are waiting for the emergency vehicles get served, and the people that are just driving that area get served.
Yes, ma'am. We'll coordinate with public safety and get their input on this section.
Well, I was told that was the basis for that road to be there to begin with, was so, but when the train is blocking 9th Street, which it does a couple of times a day, that the emergency vehicles still have a way to get around and go south on that area. So
okay, we'll definitely check into that.
Councilor Woodson?
Is this already decided that the Dragonfly letters will be right at this point?
No, this is just for illustration purposes.
Right, because I just think it needs to be on an area more open and easier for a pedestrian than in that area, because I look at this like the Bean in Chicago. You know, everybody that visits Chicago goes to the Bean, and it's open and people can take pictures, and so I was just wondering if that was the permanent site for that.
No.
I think it's a great idea, I just don't think that's where it should be.
Okay.
I think it's awesome.
Okay.
The next section is connecting MLK back to Lake Bottom, and this is the corner of 10th Avenue where Winton Road comes into 10th Avenue, where Joey's Thrift Mart is. And you can see the before and after, how it really changes the look of that intersection. So this is a proposal that will be coming forward to connect MLK to Lake Bottom. And then the last section that's under review is the River Road connection. This is currently that area on River Road connecting it to Lake Oliver, and this is the proposal to move forward. So those last 3 segments is what we'll be continuing to review and come back to council for approval when we're ready to begin construction on those and get input from council.
Councilor Davis?
I just want to take a minute to represent District 2. What you see up there is actually, well, it's in the district that I represent. But one thing I want to remind council, you know, originally we had a master plan. There was a master plan on the Riverwalk. That master plan is pretty much almost completed, but there's still a section on the north end that needs to be completed. And I believe, and I think it is under the master plan, and it's just something that we need to think about finishing what we promised. This, I've been receiving a lot of comments. If you think about it, you've got the south end, you got the uptown, but you really don't have a, I guess to use biking or path terminology, a trailhead. You really don't have a trailhead on the north end of the Riverwalk, or this path that's going all over our city and will be connected in such a wonderful way, magnificent way. But I have been receiving a lot of people in the district I represent have been asking. Most recently, the day before yesterday, I got an email, and somebody, again, highlighted about connecting. We got the roundabout that's going in now, and there'll be a section that comes down Cascade Court, but it kind of connects right to this. And there's an opportunity there. I've talked to council before about this in the future, but there's an opportunity with not even a half a mile of trails to connect a major network of trails and sidewalks in our community. I mean, you can do that, just if you can imagine going up Bradley Park Drive down to Target, and then all of a sudden you got sidewalks and paths going all over the place to major retail outlets. Imagine getting on your bike or walking and going all the way, hitting the Riverwalk and going all the way to Fort Benning or further. I mean, that's just, we got an opportunity to do some real bragging in our state. But I'm a big fan, I'm a big believer of these trails, and I'll tell you why. Again, recently, I just, somebody that brought close to, I heard the story about somebody, mayor that brought close to 700 jobs here. And one of the reasons they came was because they like this amenity, they like this aspect for their employees. But I can say that probably recently a lot of people coming to our town to set up shop and start businesses are interested in stuff like this. I mean, that's what they're looking for their employees, for the future. We've got the younger generation coming in. They don't want to get in their cars, and they don't want to get on their bikes. They want to run, they want to ride, they want to go places. And one of the things we all know it, I mean, in Columbus, we got great neighborhoods. Brookstone, I mean, some of the places that I have, Rivercrest, places that I represent in the district, but they're secluded. You guys know, I mean, y'all know in your districts, there's neighborhoods that are just, it's a neighborhood, it's secluded. You can't really, you can get on the inside, the interior, move around, but you can't get on the outside because it's too dangerous to get on the streets. There's no place to go, there's no path. People, you can get hurt. But providing this connectivity, you just start linking some of this stuff together. We've got a great opportunity here. Now, I know it costs, this kind of stuff takes resources, but we need to start thinking about doing a little, maybe just taking steps on these things. And, if we do some things in the future with some of these upgrades and these, the rehabilitation projects, and we've got an opportunity to do a lot of great things that I think the citizens will buy into. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Thomas?
Ms. Hodge, do you have any kind of a timeline for when decisions about this portion of the trail will be finalized? I am concerned about the nearness of the roundabout, and as I recall, this just sort of stops at the roundabout, right?
This particular section would extend from the end of the current Riverwalk by Lake Oliver and then would stop at Bradley Park at that roundabout.
Well, have we had conversations with the designers and construction folks who are doing the roundabout? I'm concerned about safety, and if this, I don't have a problem with our doing this as long as it's a safe thing to do, and I've heard all the horrible tales about how unsafe the roundabout's going to be anyway, and I don't buy into that, but I don't want the trail, the bicycle trail, to be in more jeopardy, I guess, people on the trail to be in more jeopardy because of the roundabout. So, and I'm sure that I'm not the first one to think about coordinating with the folks building the roundabout. But would you speak to that?
Well, this particular trail segment is south of the roundabout, so it would end there before it gets to the roundabout. The trail segment.
Not if it goes to Bradley Park.
The trail segment goes basically down Cascade and stops before the roundabout. We haven't continued it through the roundabout to other locations.
So Cascade, though, is as I understand it, when they do the roundabout, is going to turn into a cul-de-sac.
That's correct.
So this would end at the cul-de-sac?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So another segment would be going through the roundabout, as Councilor Davis suggested, to Target or up through Green Island. But this particular segment stops at that roundabout on Cascade.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Davis.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that it stops at, it's Cascade Court, where it goes in and it comes out right after the bridge. Cascade Court starts right there. So it stops there, and then you got Cascade Court that goes down. And then you would, most likely, the roundabout is going to have sidewalks. I believe they're 8-foot sidewalks, if I'm not, am I right on that? They're
I'll
pretty.
have to check on
They're
that.
pretty wide, which is about the size of these paths. They might be a little wider, but all around the whole thing. So it's pedestrian, the roundabout is pedestrian-friendly, biker pedestrian-friendly, much more, 10 times more safer than it is now. I mean, 10 times more safer. But a little segment from that cul-de-sac at Cascade Court that will be put in there, you could put a little segment of sidewalk right there, and it would actually connect into the sidewalk network that's being placed around the roundabout. The stuff that I was talking about is just future, out in the future, what you could do in continuing to connect. But of course, that would take, it would take more resources and planning, but it's an opportunity to set it up and to set up a trailhead, which would be awesome on the north end. That, it would really complete the Riverwalk.
Absolutely. Thanks. Any more questions or comments? Did anybody from the Dragonfly Initiative want to make a comment or two? I've never seen y'all be shy.
Well,
Ken, if you would come to the mic, or we can get a microphone to you.
usually we let Betsy be the spokesperson because she's head of the 2025 part of the chamber, part of connectivity. I'm just the chairman of the Dragonfly Fund. We've got the funding to continue this process, and we need to keep the momentum going and find the funding to get these next little sections built. You've already set aside some of the funding for this in the Liberty District. We were under budget by $442,000 on the fall line trace, so maybe that money can be used. We're under budget on the Martin Luther King part by a significant amount, but you've still got your paving and some lighting to do. So I think the challenge is as you go through the budget process this year to find some funding to keep this momentum going, to be able to fund some of these sections. And as long as you'll put up that funding, we'll go ahead of time and we'll survey, and it'll be a shovel-ready project. And I think it's really worked well thus far.
Absolutely. I remember when the initial briefing when all this began, and we recognized that it would continue to be a challenge for us to identify, for the city to identify funding, but we also recognized that we couldn't afford to let this partnership opportunity fall by the wayside. So y'all have done just such an amazing job, and the way it's enhanced all different parts of our community is it's a difference maker.
And we hear all the comments from the councilors, and we're aware of these, and we'll make sure that we satisfy all those concerns.
Okay, Councilor Thomas.
One question that I have, Mr. Henson, I'm sure there has been consideration given to when you come off Martin Luther King Boulevard at 10th, to be able to turn right on 10th and go down to Linwood Cemetery and hook up with the trail at at Linwood Boulevard.
The connection is not on 10th, it's on 6th. There will be a connection in the master plan right now. That doesn't mean you can't change it. But right now there's a connection down 6th Avenue that connects from 14th down to 10th Street. 10th Street. So
okay, so you would be able to come off Martin Luther King and turn and go down.
That's correct.
To Linwood and down 14th Street.
Once you hit 6th Avenue.
Yeah, okay.
You connect up.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's it for the path update. What we're going to do now is yes, sir, can I help?
Well, yeah, I'm a citizen.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ross Lawton. I live in 2403 Wise Street.
Yes, sir.
There's Woodson's district. And I just wanted to commend these people and you guys. In the 10 years I've lived in Columbus, I've seen the whole thing develop immensely. And I'm enjoying the Dragonfly Trails. Used part of them to get here today. So,
thank you.
Keep up the good work, everyone.
Listen, as much as we like hearing from them, hearing that from you means so much more. Because ultimately that's why we do it, is to enhance the citizens' enjoyment of that area. Thank you for staying here and making that comment.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, if you want to pause.
Oh, we got one more. We got yes, sir.
Mayor, Fort Benning will weigh in too. I'm the representative to the Columbus 2025 Committee for Vibrant Connected Places. We are, and the command group is a big supporter of this. We're following your lead. We built 15 miles. We're expanding. We're putting in signage that advertises our system, which is connected to yours, and then advertising your system on that same signage. Command group supports it because it supports the Army mission of fitness and attracts talented people to Benning, and then also certainly a big safety issue. You know, we're going to exercise, we're going to use trails, we're going to use bikes. We can do them safely on your trails, and we really appreciate it. So thank you, Mayor.
No, thank you all for your collaboration, because it is so nice for that to continue on up into the Fort Benning Reservation. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, if you want to pause, we can certainly do that, and when we come back, we'll just finish up today with road maintenance, pothole repair, and then we'll save census and transportation update for another meeting.
Okay, and I do apologize for having the executive session, asking council to allow us to go into that now, but I've been told we may lose a few of the councilors due to time, and we desperately need them here for this executive session on personnel. We've got a motion and a second to go into executive session for personnel issues. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll clear the chambers, and if you want to wait, this should not take that long. We'll bring you right back in. We're back in session. We just had an executive session on personnel, and no votes were taken. We'll turn it over now to City Attorney, Mr. Fay.
Thank you, Mayor. We just have one more item to call up, an add-on resolution that would fix the salary for the chief appraiser at the Board of Tax Assessors at grade 25H, $91,138.01. The resolution is ready for adoption.
Second.
Motion second, approve that resolution. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hughley?
Mayor, I've got the final update that we're going to have today on road maintenance, pothole repair, work order process, and we'll come back at a later time with transportation update and with census update.
Okay.
Got Assistant Public Works Director Kyle McGee.
Hello once again. We're going to go through this real quick for the sake of time. So just go through our process of how we identify, report, and correct, fix potholes. So our street maintenance division is a division including 64 employees. We got 17 dedicated to asphalt maintenance. And out of that 17, we have, those are 3 different crews, one 3-man pothole truck crew, a larger crew for larger asphalt repairs like driveway aprons and things of that nature. And we also have a floating crew that does some traffic control, potholes, and major asphalt repairs. So their duties, the major duties, as far as streets go, we got 1,216 miles of city streets. That includes 97 miles of state routes and roughly 28 miles of private roads. We also do curb and gutter repair, driveway aprons. We install and remove fences and sidewalk repair. All right, so there's two methods the city used for pothole repair. One, the first method is considered permanent when we use hot asphalt with tack. We shape up the pothole as you see here in the picture above. We square it up so that the patch lasts longer. And we also do temporary repairs. And the need for temporary repairs arise during after-hour situations when asphalt is not available at the plant and we don't have the staff on hand to take care of those. So cold patch, it's more expensive to use cold patch, but it is necessary in those emergency situations and temporary repairs. We use a pothole truck which heats up the asphalt and dumps it out the back, or we use a 7-yard dump truck to make the repairs. We do about 9 to 10 a day. All right, reporting. Citizens are encouraged to report potholes to 311. Employees throughout the city also report potholes. Also, the GDOT reports potholes to us in their monthly inspection reports. As you see here in 2017, work orders about 1,200, but the actual potholes repaired were about 2,500, 1,118, and 2,350 actually repaired in 18. So proactive reporting. Our street maintenance division actively search for potholes. When they do, they call them in. So out of the 1,200 work orders or citizen calls, the street maintenance division went out and identified 1,300 potholes in addition to those. So when they're out there fixing one, they're looking to see what else is in the area, and they go ahead and knock that out. They've all been instructed to do that, along with all other city divisions, to call and report these things so we can get them taken care of. 2018, 1,100 more were identified by city personnel, street divisions, and reported also. In this year, we hired a GIS data collection technician. This person is solely responsible for going out and identifying potholes and also sidewalk repair, any problems with sidewalks. They're entering it into our GIS database, and they're creating maps and work orders for our guys to go out and fix those. Our response time. Potholes reported as safety hazards are inspected and repaired or barricaded the same day. So when you call in a pothole, we go out and investigate that pothole the day it's called in. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be repaired that day. We're looking for if it causes safety hazard to vehicles, human health, that sort of thing. If it does, we safe it up, meaning we barricade that pothole, or we fix it with cold patch that day. Your typical pothole, you can expect 3 to 5 business days for repair in the summer and 5 to 7 business days in the winter. And we'll talk about the difference between the summer and winter in a little bit. There are many different types of potholes. In the upper left, you see peeling. You have slippage on the right. You can have the edge crumbling due to erosion of the shoulder, and then you have your typical pothole right here, which is in the middle of the asphalt, and that's kind of what we're all familiar with. The causes may vary depending on the base. You see the brick base up here, but sometimes there's other GAB and dirt bases that get saturated and create potholes. Depends on the thickness of the asphalt, the material, the age, traffic, et cetera. So there's many different types. Okay, common misconceptions. Up to 70% of the potholes reported to 311 when city staff goes out and looks at these are not potholes. The most common occurrence is probably uneven manhole cover. You've all been over these. You feel that bump in the road and you think, well, pothole. We go out and it's an uneven manhole cover, uneven valve covers you see for water valves and gas valves. You have railroad crossings. You have utility cut failures. Now this is a pothole and with the utility cut right here. So the city will go out and safe that up and we will repair that. But in the meantime, we will safe it up and contact the party responsible for making that cut and responsible for that failure for them to come out and fix that. So,
can you go back to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Typically, who is responsible for those types of things? Is it the waterworks, the gas light? I mean. Yes, ma'am.
I saw this. I had a slide after this one that didn't make it into the presentation. So, manhole covers could be waterworks for water and sewer. It could be the cities for stormwater. It could be telephone, cable, gas, power. There are many different utilities that this manhole could fall under. So.
But citizens should call 311.
That's right. They'll call 311, and we go out, and if we determine that it's not the cities, we notify 311 whose responsibility it is and document it. So the next time the citizen calls, they can be informed it's not the cities, it is the waterworks. They've been notified and that sort of thing.
Do we report to the waterworks?
Yes, ma'am. 311 lets the waterworks know when it is their responsibility. So how to make a pothole? Basically, the age of the asphalt is going to crack. When it cracks, you got water, you got cold, traffic, and before you know it, you got a pothole. So with that being said, heavy rainfall leads to more potholes. You'll see here the rainfall from September to December in 17 was 12 inches. Hello, come back. I lost my screen. Okay. You know, that doubled in 18, so we have 24 inches of rain. What'd that do with the potholes? 103% increase in rain and 30% annual rainfall led to 45% increase in potholes for December 2019. So the more it rains, the more potholes you're going to have naturally. Also, this is good to note that, well, I don't know if it's good to note, but I'm going to note, in January, the city crews repaired 708 potholes for the month of January alone. I think that's the most ever. But we'll talk about how we got to that number a little bit later. So the December dilemma. So why in December? There's a lot of things going on in December. We have holidays. We have city holidays. We have the asphalt plant has holidays. You have your major contractors that are doing road repairs that are ordering asphalt. They have holidays. So the asphalt plant closes down. When people aren't paving roads, they're not open. So we don't have the material to fix potholes. So also when it's wet, when it's cold, like I said, no one's paving. Therefore, they're not selling asphalt and they will close the plant down.
Kyle, excuse me just a second.
Yes.
Councilor Barnes?
Are we using something different now that's lasting longer? It used to be that with a pothole, someone would go out, because I walk the streets of my district, I see it done, I'll go back a couple of weeks, that bad boy's back again. Now I'm noticing that whatever you're using, if you're using, I don't know for a fact, I'm asking this a question, are you using something that is more efficient now than you were before?
I believe in the past, more repairs were made with cold patch, which is a temporary.
Run that past me again.
The repairs that were made in the past, the majority of them, I think, were made with cold patch.
I got you.
So they didn't last as long. And we still use cold patch, but anytime we use cold patch, we will follow up in that same area with asphalt.
I know that you're doing something. I could detect that you are doing something different that you were not doing before. And it's working, by the way. If you're following up on something like that with a, what do you call it, the high patch, or whatever it is,
Cold patch.
it's making a big difference. Because before, I report it, I go back to check, it'll be there for a little bit, and if I went back, it was a pothole again. So I notice that now, whatever you are doing, lasting longer. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's glad to hear this, it's working out that way.
Okay.
And we're experiencing with, or researching new ways to make our asphalt patches last longer. And we need to do that with additional equipment, which we'll talk about here in a second.
And I think we did do something like, didn't we okay something that you needed to help in the resilience of what you're doing?
Not today we didn't, but in the past.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Councilor Crabb.
I wanted to go back a couple pages. You don't have to go back on your slides, but you said that you're hiring a GIS data collection tech.
Yes.
Tell me again what that job is.
I believe it's a grade 8 or something like that. They're going out and they're identifying potholes, and they're bringing the information back to our GIS division, and they're creating maps to issue work orders, so that we can find the potholes before they're called in.
So would you think that this is a true statement that citizens calling 311 and reporting potholes to us saves us money?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well,
Yes or no?
Does citizens calling and reporting save us
Keeps us
money?
from having to hire additional techs right there.
It does absolutely keep us from having to hire people going around and finding the potholes.
And I know
I
that.
wanted to make a point because I've actually had citizens tell me that it's not their responsibility, and I wanted to reiterate, it's everybody's responsibility.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Kyle.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so there are some preventative maintenance practices to prevent potholes. Here is crack sealing as an option. As you see the picture below on the bottom right-hand corner, that's what crack sealing looks like. It's not really popular with your citizen because you're basically taking a street that looks like the picture on the bottom left and you're turning it into the bottom right. You're going to feel those crack sealing, but that is probably the best measure as far as preventative maintenance goes. Now, if it gets to an issue like the top right, that's a street that's kind of too far gone, doesn't require crack sealing. Is past that point, it would need to be resurfaced. But this is a measure, and we do have the capability of doing this.
I'm sorry, Councilor Huff.
After we use the crack sealing situation, how many years before we can get that road resurfaced?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
You know, all of the roads, we have a pavement management system, and all of the roads are graded, and we showed that to you, how they graded from 100 down to 0.
Yeah.
And so it may require patching a pothole, but the road still might be in the 60s, and we're working in the 30s. And so it's...
I got almost a whole road that looks like that. It's been like that for 2 years now.
Well, I hear you, but so he doesn't handle the pavement management system. That's handled over the engineering, so he wouldn't know that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, how much does it cost to repair a pothole? Well, it depends, to be honest with you. Are you working with a three-man crew, or are you putting out your seven-man crews? Are you using asphalt, or are you using cold patch? So I kind of broke it down. I hope we can get something out of this, but we'll just go on to the next one. You know, $50 a pothole with labor and materials. Of course, it could be a lot less than that. It could be a lot more, but that's pretty much a breakdown of what we got there. So in the works, we talked about a couple things. Here's one that we're going to put in the budget this year: the need for temporary traffic control equipment. And this is to improve our response time and maintenance capability on highly trafficked state routes. We don't have all the material or all the equipment needed at the moment to get out on, let's say, 185, close down a lane temporarily so we can patch a pothole. We're going to, over the next year or two, I've asked staff to put this in their budgets so that we can be responsive and have the right equipment to get out there and work on these major roadways. Infrared pothole asphalt recycler with a hot box. So, Councilor Barnes, to your comment about making a better process, what we have now is we're putting hot asphalt into a cold hole. So we're not getting the good, adhesion to it. So even some of our permanent asphalt pothole patches will come back up. And this machine basically goes over an area and it heats up the asphalt around the hole where you're able to use that existing asphalt and grade it all together, add a little bit more if you need to, and basically you're infusing it with the surrounding asphalt. We will be asking for this type of equipment in the upcoming budget. And also, the 4-ton hot box allows us to store asphalt at our yard, so we're not dependent on the plant opening and closing. One thing we did this year.
December.
Yes. Yes. Also, we did this year. This attributed to the 708 potholes repaired in January. We doubled down, so we took some of our concrete crews and we threw everybody on potholes. We did not do this prior to the plant shutting down. Next year, we're going to do it prior to the plants closing down. We're going to throw everybody at potholes, knock them out, anticipate the closures and the wet season and all that, and then follow up afterwards. And also the 2019 data technician. So they're going to do sidewalk grading, mapping, maintenance program, as we discussed, and pothole reporting. So we would like to remind everybody to call 311, report these potholes, and please slow down while you're going through our offices, which is work zones.
Councilor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a fast question. I know citizens use 311, and your own crews are out there, and if they see something, they report it back to their headquarters. Do other city employees have a system other than 311 if they see it? Because we have people all over town. Do they just use 311 as well, or is there something else they can do?
Yes, the city employees, they handle the records internally, but they also put it in the system to make a record of that.
Okay, remind me, if a garbage truck driver sees a pothole, what does he do? Does he call 311 or?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
No, that person, is he going to radio you guys, the garbage truck driver, those with radios?
Yeah.
He will wait till he has come to a safe stop off the side of the road. Okay. Radio supervisor.
Don't use his cell phone while he's driving. Got that. I'm just trying to understand, do we have some way for government employees, regardless of what department they're in, to report back to you that they see a pothole? Or do they just use 311 like everybody else does?
They use 311.
Okay. All right.
Any other?
Councilor Davis.
Mr. McGee, I just want to say that I use the 311 line a lot and calling in potholes, but I just want to, I want to show some appreciation here. a lot of times they don't know it's me calling, okay? And I don't really tell them it's me calling, but, you know, I've always noticed that there's been lately, you know, it's just been a quick response on this stuff, and it gets done. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, y'all are doing something right over there, because I've noticed a difference. I just noticed that there's been a big difference in the way that work is being done. It's getting done, and I really want to thank you for that. And I tell my constituents to do the same thing, call 311, but I also try to advise them to try to give the right locale, you know, get a landmark or something, because it's hard for the inspectors to go out there and find those potholes when, oh, there's a pothole here, you know, but, you know, you're looking for it, you can't find it sometimes. So I try to advise them to give some good coordinates, you know, a street address or resident address or something like that, and that seems to work. But I've really not, especially on the shoulders, let me tell you what, I think for a long time we've been we throw all kinds of materials down the shoulder only to come back the next year and do it all over again. What y'all are doing now on the shoulders, making the changes with asphalt or whatever, it's working. It's working, it's stabilizing. So I just wanted to say thank you on that. I did want to give, while I got you here, I want to give you, just write it down, the west end, no, the east end of Bradley Park by Chef Lee, that area there, it reminded me of it when I saw the sealant that was going in. I think that there's a lot of areas there that if you look where the pavement was put together, it's not that you have a lot of potholes, it's just the pavement's kind of separated. Maybe you could use some of that filler in there, but if you would take a look at it, I'd really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilor Huff.
Thank you personally to you and Director Biegler. I think it's going to make our lives a lot easier up here because at the rate you presented at getting to the potholes, yeah, we get call after call after call. We see it going home. We've seen, I understand now, I was going to ask the question today, but you explained it very well between the cold patch and the hot patch. Because I too was wondering while I saw it repaired on Monday and we had a problem on Friday. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense now. But thank you so very much. I just want to publicly say thank you. And I have 2 or 3 people that I know are watching that ride the district and report in all the time. So to let them know that things are getting better. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, and I think Kyle, that the really valuable information is so that folks know that if it's not poor workmanship, the materials react differently to different influences from weather, but we have to go, you guys have to go take care of them right when they call them in. So it just lets people know that if it happens at a really cold time of the year, they're probably going to see you back out there in a few weeks redoing the same one.
Yep.
And I'm glad to hear council uses that 311 because, you know, number one, that is an excellent checks and balance because if something happened and it didn't get done, they can follow back up and there's a record of when it went in. And frankly, I know sometimes if we call a department head or if we call you, it tends to jump the line a little bit. And there are other citizens who are waiting on these same types of repairs and it just slows some of those down. So you know, I commend council for using our 311 system to call these things in.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
So, Mayor, that concludes all I have today.
Okay. We've got any other questions for the city manager? All right, Ms. Davis, we'll go to the clerk.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I had you, lost you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Bruce.
For the clerk's agenda, the first item is a resolution excusing Mayor Pro Tem Evelyn Turner Pugh from the January 29th, 2019.
Motion second to excuse Councilor Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Item number 2 for the Greater Columbus Golf Authority, we have a letter of resignation from Mr. Sam Warren. Needs to be received.
Second. Motion second to accept with regret the resignation of Sam Warren. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Item number 3, Board of Historic and Architectural Review. The request is to declare the seat of Mr. Robert Anderson vacant.
Motion second to accept. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Item number 4 is an honorary street designation application from Rex Wyden. The designation is for existing street, 10th Street, from Veterans Parkway to Bay Avenue. The signage will reflect Avenue of the Arts.
I'd probably need a motion to forward this, if you so choose, to the Board of Honor.
I believe, Mr. Mayor, I believe Councilor House wanted to make an amendment to the application.
I'd like for us to consider making an amendment to the idea, instead of where he said, but also include the Liberty Theater District, and go from 8th Street and 8th Avenue up to Veterans Parkway. That would pass near the Liberty Theater as well as Mulvaney's house, just to include that part of the city and the Avenue of the Arts.
Okay. So is there a motion? Yes. Councilor Huff?
This is coming 10th Street directly from Martin Luther King, going straight down.
No, this is from 10th Street to Veterans Parkway to Bay Avenue.
I'm saying, okay, but I'm saying when we get to, when we come off of Martin Luther King and we cross the rail yard and we go down to Veterans Parkway, we're starting on the other side of Veterans to the river?
That's what this is. This starts at Veterans Parkway.
Okay, and you are saying?
I'm saying we ought to include the Liberty Theater District, and that's basically the corner of 8th and 8th up 8th Street.
Oh, coming from this side. Oh, okay.
Up to Veterans Parkway, then make the dog leg to 10th and go on.
Okay, gotcha.
Just to include the Liberty Theater.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and second to refer to the Board of Honor with that amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Motion that the minutes be received. I hear a second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries.
Item number 6 are board appointments. We have the Commission of International Relations and Cultural Liaison Encounters. We first have the mayor's appointment.
And I've asked the clerk to reach out to those individuals, see if they if they would agree to be reappointed.
And Mr. Mayor, we have not had an opportunity to actually speak with Dr. Spears.
You've had 24 hours. What do you mean you haven't? No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. Thank you.
We also have open nominations for this board, 2 seats from the council. Then we have Community Development Advisory Council. We have the mayor's appointment. We have 3 seats, as well as district seat appointments, District 3 and District 6.
All right,
and then we have.
We're trying to catch up with them.
I saw the names. I thought that's what we were nominating. This revamping of the agenda really got me confused.
None of these people are being
None,
recommended today,
right? Not today.
For number 7C.
No, those are the mayor's appointments, and we are working to touch bases with each of those
those are the expiring
members.
seats. They're all eligible, so we're going to reach out to them, see if they want to retain their seat.
And 7D are the district seat appointments, and this is for District 3 and for District 6. And these are vacant seats. Next, we have council nomination for confirmation for the Uptown Facade Board. Councilor Thomas is nominating Ms. Debbie Young.
Move confirmation.
Second.
Motion second to confirm Ms. Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. She's been confirmed.
Next, we have district seat appointments for the Civic Center Advisory Board. We have District 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8.
Need a motion to confirm, because these are district.
And Mr. Mayor, we will have to wait on the actual council member for
Those are
that
the seats that are
respective
expiring.
district.
Okay, I'm struggling
Yes,
with
to
that
make
too.
those nominations. Yes, sir.
Sorry, thanks.
So I do that for Daniel Edwards? Am I ahead or yours? Am I right here?
Did you want to nominate? Yes, she may be confirmed.
Move confirmation. Thank you.
There's a motion to confirm Ms. Edwards, and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? She's confirmed.
Next, we have the Recreation Advisory Board. We have Districts 5 and District 6. For District 5, did you want to go ahead, Counselor? Counselor Crabb is nominating Sharice Malone.
Motion second to confirm Ms. Malone. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? She's confirmed.
Next, we have council nominations to be confirmed at the next meeting. Valley Partnership Joint Development Authority. Councilor Allen is nominating Councilor Walker Garrett to succeed Dr. DeBaugh. Then we have Councilor Garrett's nominee of Joseph Brannon to succeed Jim Martin. Councilor Allen's nominee of Gary Jones to succeed Travis Chambers. And Councilor Thomas's nominee to serve another term for Mr. Monty Galbraith. And we will bring that back at the next meeting for council's confirmation. Next, we have open for council nominations, the Animal Control Advisory Board. We have the Board of Zoning Appeals, Building Authority of Columbus, Personnel Review Board, and we have recommendations from the organization and/or agencies for council appointment. That's the Board of Historic and Architectural Review. And that's all we have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we had a couple of people signed up for the public agenda on upcoming events, and they were unable to wait past the executive session, so we will just make mention that coming up on February 23rd, maintaining the Total Man Men's Health and Resource Fair, and we will get this scrolled on our CCG TV so that they're aware of it, and it's from 9 to 12 at Carter's Monumental CME Church on Radcliffe Avenue, so we'll get that put on CCG TV. All right, anything further that needs to come before the council? Oh, I'm sorry, we do have Councilor Davis.
Madam Clerk, I just want to make sure that my vote was counted on the resolution that came out earlier on the city attorney's agenda. It was? Okay, and Ms. City Manager and your wonderful wife, you're going to make...
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, with the resolution, I was asking about the resolution earlier. You're going to make sure your wonderful wife helps us on that, right, in Atlanta? Thank you, sir.
I will.
Okay.
Is that all, sir? Did it?
Yeah.
Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, I just want to announce we had our first of 3 meetings of the Government Center public meetings on the options for the Government Center, the 4 options, last night here in this room, the council chambers. The second meeting is tonight, Tuesday, February 12th, 5:30 to 7. It's at Salvation Army Community Center, 5201 Warm Springs Road. That's tonight, 5:30 until 7. Salvation Army Community Center, 5201 Warm Springs Road. And then the final meeting, Government Center public meeting on options for Government Center, will be next Monday, February 18th, 5:30 to 7 at Faith Community Center, 1600 Blanchard Boulevard. The final meeting Monday, February 18, 5:30 to 7, Faith Worship Center, 1600 Blanchard Boulevard. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moving second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the January 22nd regular school board meeting. I'm your vice chair, Mark Cantrell. Kia tonight is out of town, so she will not be here this evening, so I'll be acting